The Detroit Lions are hunting something massive in this draft, and if Brad Holmes lands the right tackle to protect Jared Goff and unleash Penei Sewell even more, the rest of the NFL might not see this monster coming.
God, I still think of that Jack Campbell draft when my phone lit up with people being like, I cannot believe they took an off-the-ball linebacker where they took him. Then he turns out to be a great player. And it's like, you know what? It is possible that Brad Holmes and the Detroit Lions know exactly what they are doing, don't care about where a player is weighted based on what position he plays. They just want really, really good football players. But this year, going into the draft for the Lions, Tom, is maybe a little different because they do have a big-time need at tackle. Now, they don't necessarily need a left tackle. There's obviously been talk about moving Penei Sewell from right to left. If that's the case, then they need a right tackle rather than a left tackle. But he's right. There is a possibility or maybe even a likelihood that someone that warrants being taken 17 overall would be a tackle, would be someone that they would take and slot in and say, all right, you are now our starting right tackle. I would say this, just my general read on the Detroit Lions, two things. One, it's never going to quite be what you think because they do have a different way of looking at the draft from a lot of people. Two, if you say to me, what do I think? I would say a big person. Somebody big. An offensive tackle, a defensive tackle to come in and add to that really good defensive line group that they have alongside Liam McNeil and Tyleek. I would say that to me makes sense. The Lions drafting someone enormous would be something to talk about on draft night.
The drafting challenge for you early on.
The drafting challenge?
Drafting challenge for you, how it's evolved over the year. Early on, you could take anybody, any position. You needed everything.
Yeah.
It's gotten more specific and I assume more difficult as it goes on. Do you feel at this stage even more pressure to target what appears to be specific needs?
Not really. Actually, I think sometimes you can get in trouble by doing that just because you might start to reach for a certain player because you feel like you need that position, and you never want to feel that way when you select a player. You pass up a really good player that you liked even more, but there is a question mark on your roster, so you just go ahead and you get that player that you weren't as excited about. It's hard to sleep at. I know for me, it's hard to sleep at night when you do that, when you don't really get the player that you really, really wanted because you reach for a need. And if that you already reached for it. So you already reached for a player that you weren't as fired up, but he fit a certain position. And then what if the player shows or demonstrates the reason why you weren't as fired up about him? So now you've reached for the guy, and now the guy's not even performing up to standards, the same reason why you had a reservation about him. Now you're really in trouble. So that's why I think you got to be careful with that.
You have done that before, reaching which you regretted?
No.
You haven't?
Not that I can remember.
Just
are you saying that I have?
Well, no, you said you hate that feeling when you.
Oh, yeah. I just know, like, we've never done that, but I can only imagine, like, that's a hard, like, you can't take a player that you you're not fired up about because he plays a certain position. And then the reason why you weren't fired up about him, he shows that on the field, and that's why you had reservation for him. And so now you got the double whammy, So no, we haven't done that. We only take players that we're really excited about.
Brad, organizationally, if there was a player out there, obviously not a quarterback, who you thought could put you over the top, even though there's no guarantee you'd get to the Super Bowl, would you, for lack of a better term, F the picks, go all in, whatever word you want to use? If you guys felt that there was a guy out there that would, in your mind, pretty close guarantee get to the Super Bowl?
Absolutely. Yeah, if it's the right guy, yeah. I mean, you guys know me. I feel like you guys get mad at me sometimes. I do that too much sometimes. But no, if we have that kind of conviction for a player, absolutely. We're gonna go and get him. Questions?
Right, I know how serious you take every draft, but we was talking to Dan and some of the guys on their ride, and they were saying this year you skipped out on the owners meeting to focus that much more on the draft. So just talk about, what do you feel any pressure or anything to get it right even more, or just to talk about how much more emphasis you putting on this draft to even skip out and just be that focused and that dialed in?
It was really more so in the past where I've gotten for our process. it's a lot of time that you miss. And so by the time that you get back, you're kind of I'm kind of in a makeup mode because of all the time that you miss for our process. So that's why I just kind of just said, look, in order for me to kind of try to avoid being in that makeup mode, because now you hop into draft meetings with the scouts and blah, 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 and it just keeps rolling, but you miss a good chunk of time for us. And so that's what went into it. Sure.
We haven't really talked to you since free agency.
Yep.
So can you just add any top line guys? Not that we expected, the biggest cost free agents, but how do you feel like you addressed your needs and filled whatever holes you thought you had?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we did the best we could, and we maximized the resources that we had available, and that's my job to do that, and I think that we accomplished that.
You referred to financial constraints. How do you imagine that evolving over the next couple of years? Like when you look at your cap table, do you kind of feel like you'll be in that place indefinitely, or do you think there's a chance anything changes over the next couple of years in that regard?
I mean, yeah. I mean, look, every single year is different. You just don't know. But yeah, there were some things that we are currently navigating through, but I do think that they're good problems that we are navigating through, and I would much rather have the good problems that we have to navigate through, whatever the term I use, financial constraints, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I think they're good problems. I'd rather have those problems than the other way. But it could change. I don't know what next year's going to bring. But we'll just but we'll be prepared and we'll adjust.
Red now.
It seemed like you had another follow-up.
Well, I was going to say that, and you also mentioned, the 1-year deals give you a lot of flexibility. I'm just curious, what are some other, strategies or mechanisms that you can use as a GM to, maintain that flexibility outside of 1-year deals?
You mean to just add more of multi-year deals?
No, I'm asking outside of 1-year deal. Like what are some other strategies that you use to maintain roster flexibility on a year-to-year basis?
Oh, there's a lot of levers that you have at your disposal. You just have to just know when is the right time. You got to be very strategic. You got to be smart when to use those levers. But there's multiple things that you can do from a roster construction standpoint. But again, like I say, each year's different. So there's times where it might make sense to trade a player. It might make sense to trade for a player. It might help you out from a salary standpoint. So every single year is different. But we do a lot of hard work on that stuff on the front end, make sure we're prepared, and we'll adjust accordingly.
Right now that you've done your full evaluations, the team sits at number 17. Do you have 17 first-round grades on some of the prospects? And just give me your thoughts on the overall class and available and potentially in the first round.
Yeah, we're not there yet in terms of having a absolute count. In terms of we still have some more work to do. In this week for sure. So we're not there yet, but we feel pretty good. I think we'll still be able to get a good player. I do think that this draft is not too much different than what's been in the past probably couple years. But I do feel obviously we're picking higher than we have been in the past. So hopefully that'll put us in position to get a better player.
I've seen some reports in recent weeks that, like national reporters, expect it to be a trade-heavy first round. Are you getting an inclination of that?
I have not. It's probably it's a little so early that action. Usually calls will start to happen, but we haven't gotten to that point yet. But it could be. We'll see.
Brad, going back to Brad's question about the offensive tackles for a minute,
yeah.
It does seem like as many as 7 offensive tackles have been projected or mocked to go in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Just what's your evaluation of the top of the offensive tackle class, and do you guys feel like that's a long-term need for you guys?
I think anytime you can acquire an offensive tackle that's a good player, I always think, if you look at it like an offensive tackle or, you call that premium position category, I don't think you can ever really have enough of them. Those guys are hard to find, but you got to make sure that you get the right one. But I think there's some good ones. We'll just kind of see how it falls.
What are the premium positions in your eyes?
What are the premium positions? Well, based on what you guys have always said, no, but I mean, but you guys tell us what the premium positions are, right?
Premium positions at his
Right.
question, so I didn't know if you had your own definition of premium positions.
So the positions that we did not draft in 2023, those are the, you know, those are the positions, right?
I mean, I think most people think pass rusher, quarterback, offensive tackle. So I don't know if you align with that.
Yeah.
Your vision aligns with that.
Yep.
So.
Agree.
Yo, mic check 1 to 2, -1, -2. Game over for this video, folks. Smash that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to stay in the huddle for more. This is NFL Madness, bringing the heat and signing out.